I lived on the second floor of an apartment block in the suburbs and worked as an engineer. I was married for 5 years, until my wife died in her sleep. When I was married, the apartment was a very different place. It was ours rather than mine. There was an atmosphere of messy happiness. There were clothes everywhere, plants, books, photographs, music playing, and we were always talking. We would talk long into the night. I was away when my wife died, thousands of miles distant, working on a construction project. It was almost 12 hours before I listened to the voicemail from her sister telling me, and at first, it seemed unreal. My wife was 31, 2 years older than me. The last time I had seen her, she had been laughing, pulling the cover off a duvet, ready to put it in the washing machine. She died of a brain aneurysm. I learned this 5 days later when I finally managed to get home after a journey delayed by flights with no availability in a vicious storm. My wife's sister told me about the aneurysm in the car from the airport. We were going straight to the Chapel of Rest. I had left my luggage at the airport, going I guess around the carousel unclaimed. I no longer cared. I had to be supported to go into the room where my wife was. The coffin was simple and elegant. "I want to see her," I said. Her sister rested her hand on my arm. "I'm sorry. That won't be possible. We did not want an open coffin." I said back, aware that my voice was too loud but unable to help myself. I was not asked. The family. We've had a lot of decisions to make in such a short space of time. I shook my head. I want to see my wife one more time before she is laid to rest. That's not too much to ask. It turned out it was. The undertaker explained that it was too late now, with the funeral less than 24 hours away. He told me he was sorry as well. I stormed out. Looking back, I know I was not thinking straight. I had lost the person I loved most in the whole world. The person I wanted to have children with and grow old beside. The future had been taken away from me. Even so, I can't justify what I did next. After going home to shower and change, I drove back to the Chapel of Rest. I apologized for my earlier behavior and asked if it would be possible to spend some time with my wife, to sit in private in the room where she was. I was taken through and told to take as much time as I needed. At the apartment, I had picked up a small selection of tools and put them in my coat pockets. I took them out and used them to open the coffin. I was crying as I removed the coffin lid. I stared in disbelief at what was revealed. My wife's body was encased in spider webs. She lay within a myriad of threads. I could make out her face underneath the web, the outline of her eyelids, her mouth, her nose. I could see that she was wearing a plain white smock. My pulse racing. I reached out to touch her face. My fingers rested on the filaments, which masked her once and still beautiful features. At the pressure of my fingers, a spider scurried into view. Its dark body and long legs flickered and then it was gone, somewhere within the coffin. I could now see some spiders in the web, all perfectly still. I did not know how they came to be in the coffin, how they had not been noticed when the coffin was sealed, leaving them undisturbed to construct their webs. But that did not matter to me, because their presence was a blessing. The realization of this rushed through my body. I believe that other creatures that found their way into the coffin after she was buried would be kept at bay by this gossamer layer, that it would protect her. For the first time since her death, I felt a moment of comfort. I knelt by the open coffin and wept and said goodbye. I can barely remember the funeral or the days that followed. I was on a compassionate leave from work and spurned everyone who reached out to me. I sat in the apartment by myself, burning with grief. I don't know what day or time it was when I saw the spider. I was in the bedroom. I can't recall why I had drifted into there. I slept very little, but when I did, it was on the sofa in the front room. I had not been near the bed. I could not bear the thought of being alone there. The spider was in a corner near the floor. Its web spanned the world from the edge of the skirting board to the intersection of the walls. I sat on the floor and watched it working, growing its web. It was dark when I got to my feet. I had an idea. I opened the window, then went through into the kitchen. The fridge, like the rest of the place, was filthy. I took all the pieces of meat in there and had gone off and placed them on the floor of the bedroom. Then I went outside and began collecting spiders. I brought 24 or so back in an old lunchbox and left them in the bedroom. Clouds of flies had already descended on the meat. I closed the door, left nature to take its course. The best way I can put into words what I was doing is to say I wanted to create a haven for the spiders. Most people vacuum them up or rinse them down the plunge hole when they see a spider. These spiders would be able to thrive in the space I made for them. It was my way of saying thank you to the beautiful creatures who had wrapped my wife safe in their web. That was 6 months ago. I had done a lot of thinking since. I'd been angry as well, suddenly furious. I'd broken down in tears. I had not been in control, but there had been quieter times when I had remembered the good times with my wife. The amazing person she was, and I would never forget her. I would never stop loving her unconditionally, but I had made the decision that I needed to start living again. For her as much as myself. It is what she would have wanted. I imagined her looking at the pigsty the apartment had become and the unwashed mess that was me and telling me it was time to get my ass in gear. I showered and shaved. I didn't have any clean clothes, so I found the cleanest I could and told myself I would go to the store later and buy new jeans, t-shirts, socks, the works. I had not been in touch with my old work for a while and did not know if I still had a job. So I texted my boss and asked if we could meet the following week. Then I set about furiously cleaning the apartment. I used clothes that I would never wear again as cloths. Powered up the vacuum. Filled a dozen bin bags. My limbs were aching and I had a couple of dizzy spells. I was not used to this level of activity on top of which I had not eaten or drank anything all day. But still it felt good. And there was one more thing to do. During the course of the day, I had made another decision. I needed to move. There was too many memories here. I would take photos, put the details online, get the place sold. After I had cleared out the bedroom, I had not been in there since creating the haven for the spiders. I took a deep breath and opened the door. The room had become an almost alien landscape. Webs reached out over every surface, layer after layer of them. It was impossible to tell where one began and the next ended. I felt strangely exhilarated as I entered the room. My footsteps set dozens of spiders into motion. Small dark shapes hurrying along strands that stretched from the ceiling to the floor. I did not know where to begin. A section of web I had disturbed as I had moved had become attached to my hair. I brushed it away, only all I achieved was to get more stuck around my hand. I cursed and accidentally breathed in the strands of the web. I tried to spit it out and wave my arms around in annoyance. There was so much web though. It was on my face and my chest, all over my arms. It was irritating my eyes and my nostrils. I needed to get out of there, only I stumbled, fell, and second by second, I became more entangled in the web. I began to cough as it became harder and harder to breathe. I struggled to get back to my feet but could not, and realized with a mounting sense of panic that I was trapped. All around me the spiders ran frantically in every direction I could see, repairing the damage I had caused. I thought at first, spinning new web, and then I realized as they came closer that they were strengthening the prison that I had naively walked straight into. I began to scream until my mouth was gagged by new spun web. My mind racing, I lay there and watched as my cage grew and slowly enveloped me. Wave after wave of panic gripped me, but I could not move. And then they came. The tips of their legs must have spanned more than 12 inches. Their bulbous bodies suspended between. There was 2, 3 of these monstrous arachnids, then more. They were moving slowly along the web, descending on me. I was too scared to do anything but watch as they crept closer until 3 were over my face, 1 over my neck, another 4 or so, I could not properly see, were gathering over my hands. The web, thank God, kept them off me. My relief was short-lived, as with nimble, swift movements, they eased their way through the weave, and I felt their legs touch my skin, felt something sticky began to spread over me. In the hours that followed, my skin began to burn, and then the flesh beneath. The monstrous spiders had been joined by their kin. Hundreds of spiders moved over me. They had crawled under my clothes, and the thick liquid from them covered most of my body. The pain was growing. It felt like my body was being eaten in two, as if acid was working its way through me. I knew what was happening. I had been so stupid. I was their prey, and they were feeding on me, breaking down my body so they could feast, as they had done with my wife. As this realization dawned on me, anger surged through me. A primal rage. I tensed every muscle, shook and struggled and raged a bit by bit. I was able to move. I fought, and I would not give up. I will never return to the apartment. When I staggered out into the hallway of the apartment block, I felt no pain, only a numb hatred. Now, as I wait for a plane to take me far from here, my wounds sting beneath dressings I had clumsily applied. This pain is nothing compared to what I feel inside. The spiders had not been protecting my wife inside the coffin with their covering of web. They had been preparing to devour her, and I had done nothing because I was blind to the truth. I saw goodness where there was only instinct, the drive to feed until there is nothing left. Nothing but a husk, where once there had been a person. Shout out to my superfans, Sweet Black Swan, Tacy, and Brooklyn. I really appreciate you guys supporting my channel, and I really look forward to making more content for everyone.